Welcome to Truth, Money, and Freedom. Today is Thursday, March 21st, 2019. And I kind of wanted to do kind of like an after action sit rep report for the Fed meeting that happened yesterday. I know a lot of people don't follow that. I do. I'm in a Discord channel called Truth, Money, and Freedom, which is always in the description of every video. We follow that quite closely. We're very interested in what the Fed has to say. We work through all the BS, and try to find the truth of what's really going on. But let me put it in a nutshell what Jerome Powell had talked about yesterday. And he basically has 100% reverse course from what he said they were going to do in December. Now, if those who didn't pay attention in December, when we did get our last rate hike increase, it was 25 basis points or 0.25% increase. He said 2019 will see two interest rate increases. He has completely reversed course on that. In fact, he said there's only going to be one in 2020. There will be no increases this year in interest rates. Now, why would he say that? Why is there 100% about face? Like I said, I'm giving you a sit rep here. This is just, the truth is the interest rate hikes cannot be supported by this economy anymore. They really couldn't from the beginning, and that was evidenced in what happened in December. The market took one hell of a hit. Now, it's recovered mostly, but once again, I've said this before, guys, this right here is an illusion, and I'll explain again why. These numbers really aren't real because we're printing money. We're printing money. It's sloshing around the system, and it's looking for a home, and it's going into this. But at the same time, is it really going up in value when the dollar value is going down? That's why these markets are an illusion. So it's something very important to understand, and I know that we've been told since we were kids, that the stock market, the indices are, a really good measuring stick for the health of the economy. The problem is that is no longer correct, and it hasn't been correct for a very, very long time. But I digress. Back to the subject of the Federal Reserve. While Jerome Powell was speaking, he actually affected the gold and silver markets, which is interesting. I'm going to show you that real quick here. And that was from yesterday. Here's yesterday. While Jerome Powell was speaking, here we go. Look at this. Silver went up quite a bit, actually. Went up basically, what is that, about 20 cents. Silver went up 20 cents while the Fed Reserve chairman was talking. Let's look at gold. Let's see what gold tells us. Oh, gold had a similar spike while Jerome Powell was speaking. Um, the markets are getting a little bit scary for some people now because they're starting to understand that the housing market is crumbling here in the United States. Now, it's a slow motion crumble. It's not a thing where it's head for the hills, Katie bar the doors. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is that the interest rates have literally pushed up the cost of buying a home, and the housing market is going to have to react to that by bringing down the price of the home to compensate for the higher interest rates for the lending of money. And that's usually what happens. It's always a balancing act between the price of homes and the interest rate. It's always worked this way. This is a truism. It will always be this way in the future, I believe. So the housing market is negatively affected, and we are now going into the busiest part of the housing season, which is actually, it's nearly 6 months here in the United States. And the home sales are really bad for this time of year. They're supposed to be really revving up right now, but they're not doing so good. Well, couple that with every time they raise interest rates, the stock market goes down. So they know, the Fed knows, they understand that they are wrecking the economy. And it's because we've had low interest rates for so long. That was the bullet they shot out of the gun to deal with 2008. Remember now, my contention is, and I've said before, in 2008, the economy died. It's been on full life support ever since, and I can prove that with 0% interest rates for 8 years. I mean, that's unheard of. That's never happened before. Many places went negative on their interest rates. Japan and Germany and many other countries on their bond yields. That's emergency economic policy. That's what that is. That is literally where, the patient is brain dead. We're trying to keep them breathing. That's what negative interest rates means, on your bond yields. So, so I'm going to ask you to basically think about this. We know this is an illusion. This isn't real because they keep printing more money. Businesses are borrowing money and buying back their own stocks. That's what's propping up the market, along with banks buying stocks. With freshly printed money from their respective central banks. I've shown you a story before where Japan, it's open. It's like an open secret, but it's very verifiable. The Japanese central bank owns 80% of the indice market in Japan, and that should be, you know, something everyone should understand really well. When banks are buying up everything with money they print up out of nothing. So here's what we should be looking at, and I've said this before, so I know those of you who have been listening to us for a while understand why I talk about the bond yield curve inversion. Here's an example of it right here. This is live data today, Thursday, the 21st of March. We have an inversion here. Now, this is not new. This inversion's been with us for a little while now, but it's starting to show up on in the CNN business site here. Money goes into bonds, smart money goes into bonds when they really, really think that they can make more money. In this case, look at the 5-year and the 10-year. 5-year yield is 2.34% per year. The 10-year is 2.54% per year. Money will go into this when they believe that they can make more money doing this than staying in the stock market. And that's one of the reasons why you get this inversion. So this is a true indicator that there is trouble coming, and it's not too far off. Now, I'm not going to give you a date, a time. I'm not that kind of guy. Besides, if I did, I'd be wrong, just like everyone else. But this is an indicator that a recession is coming. Now, it doesn't mean it's imminent. It's already here. I believe the recession has already started, but that is my opinion. I can't prove that now at this point, but this is the curve inversion. We'll do more podcasts about this in the future, but this is what everyone needs to learn to understand and read, is the bond market. That's where all the action is. The stock markets of the world are a pimple compared to the bond and derivative markets. This is where all the money is, and I mean all the money. Stock markets are small, even though, I think I've said this before in a video, these numbers are truly representative of something else. The Dow being at, look, it's just about 26,000. What that actually represents is $26 trillion in valuation. So in other words, the collection of all 30 companies in the Dow, all their stocks put together, is valued at $26 trillion. Same thing applies to the NASDAQ. It's 7 trillion. S&P, it's 2.8 trillion. Or 7.8 trillion, 2.8 trillion. That's what those numbers represent, valuations of the stocks held by those indices. And they don't like using the trillion-dollar connotation, especially in the mainstream media, because if the Dow Jones goes down 700 points in a day, that's $700 billion of valuation that has left the Dow. So they don't like saying that, except when they can blame somebody for it. I remember when Brexit happened. I'm sorry, the vote for Brexit. I should be more specific. The vote for Brexit, I believe, was June 23rd of 2016. The U.S. indices took a major hit. And I remember the mainstream media saying on the radio, I was driving and listening to the news, and they were blaming Britain or the British, the English, for us losing some $2 trillion worth of wealth in our stock market. They actually used the T word. It's the first time I've heard them do that before. They always say it in points, but those points are representative of, as I say, trillions. 25 trillion, 975 billion, and 620 million. So, if you look at it that way. So there it is, guys. I mean, there's probably better places to actually see where this yield curve inversion's happening. And if so, throw it in the comments section. I've been using, I don't like CNN for news, but I do like their business page with the markets because it covers everything I like to know about. It covers the main indices, covers the bond market, oil, in the yen, the euro, gold. It also covers currencies. And then, basically commodities. I look at those, gold and silver. I'm a gold and silver guy. So, and it even covers Bitcoin down here in the Fear and Greed Index. So it has a lot of the data that I like. But if you guys know of a better site that shows this curve inversion, please do throw it in the comments section. I would be interested in seeing it. We covered, basically what the Fed did. They've become dovish after being hawkish. And that's a very disturbing about face for the Federal Reserve. It means that they know interest rate hikes are causing severe problems throughout the entire U.S. economy. The next step is for them to actually start reversing their raising policy and actually start reducing interest rates. And in fact, remember I said before in a previous video, we're probably going to go negative on our interest rates at some point, and it will probably happen sometime towards the end of next year. That's my opinion. That means that the economy absolutely cannot support interest rates at all anymore. They have to go negative to support bank bail-ins versus bail-outs. The economy is not healthy, gang. It just isn't. I mean, there's so many red flags out there right now, but I'm going to tell you something else I remember from 2008. And in 2008, every single talking head on the mainstream media said, "Oh, we were blindsided. Oh, you didn't see that coming. No one saw that coming." When the economy began to collapse based on those derivative markets for CDOs and mortgages. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people saw that coming, including me. I saw it in the spring of 2007. The alternative media saw it as early as 2006. There's a lot of people out there right now in the alternative media saying, we see it coming again. It's coming. And all the same warning signs are going off. Mainstream media is not covering a lot of this. So it's probably best for you guys to make sure to, check alternative news sites so you can get some of this economic data. And why is that important? Why do you need to know? Well, this time, you might want to think about some basic preparations, like storable food, silver and gold as a way to, save your wealth, things of that nature. Start thinking about this kind of stuff because this next one is going to be pretty bad. It's not just going to be a recession. It's going to be significantly worse. And they don't have a lot of bullets in the gun to deal with this as far as the Federal Reserve is concerned. They haven't been able to raise interest rates up to 5.25%, which is where it was at when it hit in 2008. And they dropped them to zero and kept them there for 8 years. 8 years. And not to mention printing an enormous amount of new money and pouring it into the system. That was how they dealt with it. It was not the best way. There were other ways to deal with it. And in fact, Conjecture and I will be doing a podcast sometime soon about ways we can avert another crisis that are very simple and very easy to implement, but government will never do these and neither will banks. And we'll explain why in the podcast. But at any rate, yield curve inversion is right here, gang. Federal Reserve is not going to be raising rates in 2019, and they're claiming there will only be one in 2020. That should tell you something because we never did get back to normalized interest rates. That means the Fed knows we're still in a very dire emergency economic situation, not just here in the United States, but the world. They're not going to normalize things. We're never going to have normalized interest rates again under this current economic paradigm that we're in right now. They just can't do it. They've printed too much money. And when they tried to pull money out of the system with quantitative tightening, which is the Fed reducing its balance sheet and those mortgage-backed securities that they had purchased from the banks, those worthless pieces of paper that they paid trillions for, that's not working either. It's having a negative effect on the entire economy when they're doing it. So So once again, this is that excess money sloshing around the system. It's actually still sloshing around. It's in, the Dow, it's in the Nasdaq, it's in the S&P. But some of it's now, some of that smart money is now going into bonds, and that's something that we need to be aware of as well. And when the bond yield curve inversion happens, it is a warning sign that we are heading for a recession. And it's a very, very good indicator. It's been very, very reliable for the last 7 cycles, actually. So you guys have warning now. You've actually got that warning. So keep that in mind. I will keep you guys updated as I watch this stuff too. And Basel 3 is happening. However, it's not quite as we expected. The Federal Reserve is not doing it on March 29th with the gold as Tier 1 asset. India is, the Central Bank of India. And that explains why in the chart that I showed that India suddenly picked up a lot of gold in the last 2 years. So that explains why. But at any rate, gang, that's all I have for you for now. Sorry to be so long-winded again, but I did want to show you what the yield curve inversion actually looks like on a chart. And for you guys to keep that in mind and to keep a lookout for it. And that curve will get worse over time. And as it gets worse, we're deepening into a quote-unquote recession. And the mainstream media will not tell you about it until we're 6 months into a recession. That's when they'll announce it. But you'll know first because you'll be watching the yield curve. I mean, it's pretty cool, actually. Okay, that's all for today, gang. Thank you very much for listening in. And hey, if you like the things we talk about in our podcasts, I know you'd love coming into our Discord server. All the information is below. You can create a free account at Discord. Get right into our server. We have a voice chat and a text chat. And these are the kinds of things we love to talk about. We'll do some podcasts on gold and silver here real soon. We're all gold and silver bugs in there. But for now, you guys all have a wonderful day. Take care.